Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to HOTFIX. Today we're going to be talking about how do you actually become good at gaming and what does it actually mean to be, well, I guess, a good gamer. What actually is a good gamer? It might sound simplistic, but I can tell you it really isn't. We've also got Mr. Kirioth as well somewhere.
Hello people, hello.
Yeah, weirdo. So yeah, Mr. Kirioth, if you'd like to throw us straight into it, my boy, let's do it.
Well, one of the things that we were thinking about when we were talking about this hotfix is that one of the main things you see from good gamers is basically dedication to a single game. So if you look at like pro players of, say, League of Legends, StarCraft, Call of Duty, you name it, the way they are good at the game is that they will sit there for like 6+ hours a day and do nothing but play that one game. Now, if you do something with that amount of repetition, you're bound to become good at it eventually. So, if someone practices that much, are they at some point guaranteed to become good at that game?
Yes, but I know people who have played specific games for ludicrous amounts of time, yet they haven't actually got any better. I think the distinction has got to be made between simply playing a game for any length of time compared to how efficiently you use that time. Now, if you're playing a game for 6 hours a day, you could just be like on autopilot. You might try for maybe 1 or 2 hours, but then you're on autopilot. You're not effectively using that time. Whereas you might find somebody who only plays the game for 2 hours a day, but really tries to learn and adapt in whatever game they're playing. You know, learn the maps, learn, StarCraft build orders, learn League of Legends, whatever, and all the rest of that stuff. Dota 2, there's loads of games. Counter-Strike Go, 1.6, Quake Live, whatever, loads of games. I really think it comes down to the quality of the time they spend on the game, the quality of the training,
so
the dedication.
So not just playing the game then, because I mean, if we could sit here and play. Well, we do sit here and play games all the time. But if you don't just play the game for 6 hours, but you actually attempt to learn something every game. So, like, say you have
exactly.
like 8 games of StarCraft 2. If something happens in the first game that repeats in the second one, if you treat it differently and try and work around it as opposed to do the same thing you did before, that's going to have a different end result after a while than just like seeing the same problem over and over again and just beating your head against it. Just like, well, it didn't work the first time, but it might work this time. But it might work this time. And finding that it doesn't, but still going at it.
Okay, another example of this, which is nothing to do with esports or gaming. Well, it's to do with actual sports, but not computers. If you are training to play football, this is football, ladies and gentlemen, not soccer, football. You go on to football.
Not hand egg.
Yeah, not hand egg ball. What the hell is that? And you are going on a 20-mile run every day, right? This is taking you... You're obviously massively fit if you're doing a 20-mile marathon run every day. But you are, right? This is taking you some time to do this, a few hours, yeah. How does that actually translate into football? Not that well, because football's more about explosive power. The ability to sprint, move over short distances fast. Not the ability to just keep running. So that would be like pointless training. And you could kind of compare that back to gaming in the sense of if you're just playing a game, I don't know, League of Legends, and you're always at the same level, you're never getting any better, but you might play 10 hours a day. Well, there's got to be a reason why you're not getting any better. It's because you're not pushing yourself to become better at the game. You're happy with where you are at the game, and it kind of stagnates. And obviously games like League of Legends and StarCraft 2 are very clever in the way that they run their internal elo system, so their player ratings, where you generally win as much as you lose at every single level. So it's kind of deceptive, and people think, oh, I'm actually doing quite well. I've won a game, I lost a game, blah, 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 when really you're not.
And I mean, a kind of another equivalent of that is it simply the focus that pro players have that calls them to be better? I mean, obviously a pro player is a lot more invested in playing a single game because they make their living off that one game. But, we know that people can play games for ages and end up not really improving, just sort of hovering at the same level. But is it that focus that people have that sort of drives them to basically learn from every single time they play the game? I mean, you can kind of extend it so that someone who plays League of Legends all the time will be presumably better at League of Legends than someone who plays like LoL and Dota 2 and, say, Heroes of Newerth for instance, if you play all three, you'll be good at MOBA games if you play nothing but MOBA games, but you won't be as good as someone with a specific...
But hang on, I think the difference there with that example is, if you understood Heroes and Kirioth and you understood Dota 2's champions and items, yeah, and the slight differences of the game, the underlying mechanics that you've learned from League of Legends, for example, are still the same in every single game. It still is a MOBA game. So you would still inherently be better than somebody else who kind of just only plays Dota 2 and is at, say, a mid-range level, but you're playing League of Legends at a much higher level. You know, if you take any League of Legends professional, let's say Skara or somebody, you throw him into Dota 2, he's going to whitewash you if you've played Dota 2 for, you know, an X amount of time, because he's playing League of Legends at a much higher level where it's driven to succeed. You know, well, he's driven to succeed, and he's also his mouse control, his accuracy is way much better, you know, way loads better than yours is, because you haven't really been at that level. So it's hard when you, and obviously we're not even accounting for people who are just naturally gifted, because you do, I mean, look at football, look at Messi. He is literally the best football player there ever has been. He's like a 5 foot tall bloke who would get smashed by anybody, but he just whitewashes everybody. Why is that the case? We don't know. Nobody's trained him to be like that. It just happens. It's like, what? You know, God, I'm slapping my case. Look, I'm getting crazy. You know, look at Pele, Maradona. He blows them away. It's like, what's going on? You know, so you do get people who are just naturally good at games. Look at StarCraft 2. You get Flash, right? Now he whitewashed everybody in Brood War. And he whitewashes kind of everybody at the moment. But, you know, he's like naturally gifted, let's say, but also heavily trained. And I think that's a bit different. Anyway, what's the next point, Mr. Kirioth? We're going a bit crazy.
I think another part of it is that if you play loads of different games, like you play just FPS games, but you play Battlefield and Call of Duty and all that, there's something that I think the people who always play one game will have a massive advantage over people who play different types, which is that they know the game inside out, and there's always some sort of like...
You know what? Hang on. Remember your point, because I've got to jump in, because I've got first-hand experience of this. I'm better at FPS games than I am at other games, yeah, but I really like RTS games and MOBA games. Now, what happens to me when I play a MOBA game or an RTS game? Well, an FPS game is like reaction-based to the extreme, and you've got to move fast, look around. You know, you're constantly doing something, like twitching about. An RTS game, like StarCraft, obviously has APM, which records your actions per minute. And I've noticed that at my level, like I'm high gold division, my APM is like, at some points, like 100 or 150 more than the people I'm playing against. But they beat me. It's because what I'm doing is not efficient, but I'm constantly moving. Like I'm constantly clicking. I do it in MOBAs as well. Instead of, you can hear my mouse now, instead of doing like one click to go there, I'm going fucking, it's like, what am I doing? It's crazy. But I think that's become from the fact that I grew up on FPS games, you know, with your Counter-Strikes, your Day Defeats and stuff like that, where it is a more reaction-based environment, in the sense of you can't just stand still. Like, you know, in StarCraft, you could take your hands off the keyboard, look, and then put them back on. Well, you can't do that in an FPS game. You'd be dead. You know, so I think that's kind of an interesting point.
But then I think
from personal experience.
That kind of leads into something where I think there is like a crossover between these different types of games, because when you play mid on League of Legends, you are a lot better at FPS than I am. And so,
yeah, but that's only because it's oh yeah, I see where you're going.
Exactly,
but I see where you're going. Yeah.
The characters you pick generally are very reactionary. You know, there are combos that you need to lay down to do maximum damage. And your thing, if you always look around the map because you're constantly checking out your surroundings, means that you're better at going like top or bottom to help with ganks than I am when I play top, for instance. Like I should come down into mid more, but I don't, because I prefer RTS and MOBA games now, really above FPS by quite a long way. And I get quite insular, and I'm like, I prefer being the person in the middle of the fight trying to keep everything under control.
Quite interesting, this is.
Whereas you're a lot better at suddenly, you know, blasting someone down. I mean, a number of times I've looked to mid, just briefly, to see if you need a hand, and someone will be caught out of position and you will just kill them instantly. I'm like, what? How the fuck did you do that? I couldn't do that because I've never been very good at that kind of twitchy, fast-paced, reactionary style. But when it comes to top lane duels, where both people tend to be quite bruisery, I'm quite good because I know when to come out, when to go in. It's a lot more slow-paced. And I think that is actually quite a big part of things. It depends on how you move from game to game. Like, if you're really good at FPS and you go into LoL and play support, for instance, you probably won't be very good, frankly, because the support does nothing that you do in an FPS. You know, there's none of that twitchy, reactionary-based stuff. It's a lot more sort of taking care of someone and just trying to generally steer things around. Whereas an FPS is very much, there's a guy, need to grab him, got him, dead. So I think some skills are kind of transferable from one thing to another. And your history of an SPS player does actually make you better at, like, mid in League of Legends because of the similarity in playstyle, even though the games are totally different.
Yeah, because it's still it completely relies on react, and you are totally right. I mean, I look at the champions that I play. People often laugh at me for the like it is a very limited range of champions I've got, considering the amount of games I've played. But they are literally champions they're all skill shot champions. They're like champions that live or die by getting a decision right within a second. You know, if you get it wrong, it's like, oh, you look like an idiot. But if you get it right, it's like, whoa. But you've got to be there to kind of anticipate what they do. That is a very interesting thing, actually. And it's like, I think in terms of like crossover, games like MMO games, and I guess kind of does extend to MOBA games, where you do have the set roles where you've got the people who the assassins, like the sustained DPS, the healers and the tanks and stuff like that. You kind of do get that divide in personalities between people. You know, like even going back to MMOs and stuff, you know, I always kind of gravitated towards tanks and stuff like that because I wanted to be at the front, I wanted to be in charge. But anyway, this is going away from the point, Mr. Kirioth. So that is pretty interesting.
Well, the other thing as well is that if you play a certain game, like just the one game over and over again, part of you in the back of your head whilst you're playing the game is going to be doing something that like a relatively inexperienced player wouldn't do, which is you kind of sit there and you end up theory crafting, because if you play it enough, you know what all the items are. You know what counters what, who counters who, how best to react to a certain team composition and stuff, that someone who plays, you know, a wide range of stuff won't necessarily know. Like, I think the best example...
what you're saying is that somebody with... If let's take two players, right? Player A and player B, and both have got a skill level of 5, yeah? This means that they're equal in terms of how they actually control their characters or whatever they're doing in the game. But player A understands the game. Player A is going to beat player B because player A player A is going to know what to do at specific times, whereas player B is not. Now, I think like StarCraft is the best example for this, because if I'll take you back to a recent game I had. This was streamed and people were pissing themselves laughing at me. There's a time in StarCraft 2 when you map own people. This means you control the map with you've got loads of command centers all over the map, and you're just like absolutely hammering somebody into oblivion. But I couldn't quite finish this guy off because I was I think I was bio, so I had like the infantry units like Marines and tanks. He was as well, so it's kind of a standoff. So I thought, you know what, I've got that much money, I'll just build battle cruisers. Well, battle cruisers are not exactly the best thing to be doing at that point. What I should have been doing was just carried on with my army and just starve the guy out, right? But no, I went and built battle cruisers because I'm a retard. So I was suiciding all my army in, they're all dying. So, oh look, I've got a load of battle cruisers. Well, he obviously saw what I was doing and he just built Vikings and killed my battle cruisers and I lost the game. It's like, what? I was in such a commanding position, but that guy made better decisions in the game, which beat me. Even though I had a massive APM, I had shitloads of money, I had all the rest of that stuff. It didn't matter because, he knew what to do at that time. And it's the same with understanding maps. Let's say Counter-Strike. So I think it's called Long Haul in Office. Can't remember. If somebody's covering that with like an AWP or a scout, a sniper basically, and you just walk by like a pleb with I don't know what you got, a shotgun, like clearly in the open, they're waiting for you to be there, they kill you. You might be a better player than them, but because they understand the map, they're actually a better player than you.
And when you get into games like League of Legends, like any MOBA basically, where you put in items as well. I mean, like someone who has just picked up League of Legends and goes mid, say they're facing someone. Say it's like a mirror matchup or something. The person who's played the game more, they might both have a kind of similar reaction time, a similar understanding of the skills. But if one of them, say, rushes a magic resist item, they're going to take less damage. And so they've reacted accordingly to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
They know what they're going to do, so they rush to get the items that will stop them from dying. The other person might just think, oh, well, if I go all out damage because it's the same person as me, that's not the right way to do it. So just having that little bit of extra knowledge, that part of your brain that sort of looks at what the other person's building and says, well, okay, they've built this, therefore if I build some armour, I should be able to outlast them, and I know that in 5 minutes my jungler's going to come up top, whereas theirs has died, so I'm fine for the moment to be able to pull this off. Someone who doesn't play the games intensively isn't going to come to the same conclusion. You know, they're still going to... They might still... It's just... That side of things, I think, is something that people who don't play games intensively attribute a lot of... They don't attribute much to it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm naturally talented, so it's okay. You might be naturally talented, but if someone knows, you know, what you're building and how to counter that build, they will have the edge regardless, because they know basically how the game works on a much deeper level than you do. And I think that's what... I think it's a combination of all of those things that make...
Well, what about this? What about players that are actually good at the game but bad at the game? So, like, you've got somebody who completely understands the game. They know everything about it. They, for all intents and purposes, are good at the game. You know, they know everything. They know what should be done at certain times. You know, they know what weapons they should be buying. They know map layouts. They know everything. But they're not very good at the game. Does that make them good at the game, or does that make them bad at the game? It's weird.
Yeah.
What is going on here now? So you've got somebody. I guess like these could kind of be managers of teams, although that's not really. So you've got somebody who understands the game completely, but doesn't really have the like. How can I explain it? It's like the mechanical.
Yeah.
Prowess.
So they've got like the analytical part down. They can sit there and say,
yeah,
we should be doing this here, and this here. But when it comes to actually controlling the character, they can't do it.
Yeah. You know? So it would be like kind of like a football manager. So they know formations and layouts, what players should be doing what and all this, but they couldn't actually go on the pitch and do it themselves. Does that make them bad at the game? Now this is kind of a weird place to be going into, because essentially, yeah, if you cannot win at the game, you're playing the game, you are bad at the game. But you may know the game inside out. So you're not really as bad as you should be, but maybe you should, instead of focusing on getting better at the game, because you already are really good at the game analytically, you should go away and train mechanically to get, the things like mouse accuracy down and stuff like that, and kind of train muscle memory into your fingers to reload your weapon and stuff like that. Maybe that's a weird way of looking at it. That's weird.
It is, but I think that, again, that's probably what makes pros so far above people who just play the game all the time, because you've got this... I think there are certain people who are better at the mechanical side of things. They are better at controlling the champion, the character, whatever. They've got the twitch reaction, or they're able to, really well judge whether they're supposed to go in, whether they're supposed to stay where they are, where to approach from. But then you've also got...
So what is being good at gaming? And how do you become good at gaming?
So that's the
Does
thing.
it even matter?
Does having that analytical side make you worse than someone who's got the mechanical side? Because surely, if it's a team game, for instance, you'd want like a few of each, wouldn't you? You'd want a few people who know everything that's going on, and the people who could take advantage of it by being able to control it. If you had an unbalanced
but then if the other team's got people who are sort of mediocre in each department, they're going to win.
Oh...
Listen, right, at the end of the day, I don't, like, how do you become good at gaming? You really have to practice, but you have to think to yourself, what do you actually want out of the games that you are playing? Do you want entertainment? Do you want to be the highest ranked? Do you want to get promotions, all that shit from whatever division you're in? If you do, then you're probably going to have to change the way you play the game, yeah? If you're not naturally competitive in that sense, I would say I am. I enjoy playing people in a situation where I'm going to lose points or whatever, or gain points. But if you're not like that, and you like playing games with your friends, and you like for the community aspect and all the rest of it, then it can be hard at times to switch yourself over to the thing of, okay, now I want to get better at the game, because then it becomes stressful and you don't enjoy it. So there are different types of people out there, but I guess in answer to the question, how do you become good at gaming? You already are good at gaming if you enjoy gaming, and that's kind of it, Mr. Kirioth, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Although don't say that to my face, because I accept nothing but absolute massive victory. You scumbags.
So your good at gaming is being able to smash the opposition, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it is. It is. I get enjoyment out of a game through winning, but like also seeing the development of myself. So if I'm getting better at the game, and I know I am, as in StarCraft 2 or League of Legends, the games that I play now, or even Shoot Mania when we went to see that in Paris the other day. So, I was a bit shit, to be honest, to begin with. And then as soon as the dev said to me, give me some dirty insider, tips, I was miles better. It was like, oh, right. So I was a player with kind of the underlying mechanics already, but as soon as I was told, basically don't jump, I became much better. It was like, and then I was winning every single round, hands down. It was like, oh my God, so there are little bits and pieces like that, but we could be here all day, Mr. Kirioth, good Lord. So what I want to know, ladies and gentlemen, to the people who are watching this, how do you become good at gaming? How do you quantify? Well, not quantify is not the right word. How would you? What makes you say Bobby is good at gaming? Imagine, Bobby's your imaginary friend, or Lucinda, or somebody.
Ronald.
How? Ronald, yeah, Ronald McDonald. What the heck? What makes them good at gaming? How are you good at gaming? How did you become good at gaming? Why do you think you're good at gaming? So many questions. Let us know in the comments below. We've been Stylosa and Kirioth, and you can follow us on Twitter at Kirioth. That's Mr. Kirioth. That's not me, obviously. Why would I have his name as my fucking Twitter account? But however, I am not at Stylosa. I am at Unit Lost Gaming, so make sure you follow me. And I think we'll catch you next time.
Toodaloo.